Okay, so here are 5 things that I think Project Motor Racing should improve in the launch version, the version we're all going to be playing at launch compared to the version that I've driven. Now, I don't think any of these things are unachievable. They just are showing you the focus that I have on the game and the things I think where it's a little bit lacking. So this is going to be all of a critical video. Now, to be honest, when I drove the game at the Sim Racing Expo, and full credit to Project Motor Racing, they just said, here's your rig, go at it, and they just were not interested in looking what I was doing or controlling any messaging. They haven't had any input on it. I found it a very challenging game, but there are some things I don't really understand. I just want to say before I start, I've been made aware by people in the comments, so thank you, that the Sim Racing Expo build, Project Motor Racing feel like they had some issues with it. Now, question marks about why they would put that kind of build in front of sim racers like myself, I don't know, but they have apparently made a build available to another YouTube channel, and there's lots of YouTube content coming out. Now, I don't know the relationship there. I don't know if it's paid for content. I don't know if it's part of a promotional plan. There's absolutely no problem if it is. That's, you know, they've got to market the game. However, I just want to let you know that I've asked Project Motor Racing now if I can also play an updated version of the game so I can see if some of these things have been improved or not. So if you think that's a good thing, then make sure to leave a like and leave a comment below saying that you want me to try out the latest version of the game, because I can be completely honest with you, I'm just going to tell it like it is. Things I like, I'll tell you. Things I don't like, I'll tell you. So the first thing is the HUD, and specifically the bottom left. Look at the brake and throttle indicator here and the steering indicator. I really feel like there has to be an option to at least modify it in terms of the colours. I really hate the fact that the brake and the throttle are the same colour. It does my head in, frankly. I praise the style of the game, and I must still praise the style of the game with like the blue and the gold. I like that, it's got a vibe, but they've gone too far for me in that bottom left. Like, that needs to be green for the throttle, red for the brake, and that's going to give me a better indication of how I'm doing with my inputs. Also, that steering indicator, it takes up a lot of lateral space, a lot of horizontal width, and I can't really work it out. I'd rather have a steering wheel icon like you have in iRacing. For me, that's much more intuitive than what I see there. So that's my first thing is on the HUD. The second thing on the HUD is actually, if you look at the mini-map, the refresh rate of the rotation doesn't seem to be super high, and I'm not sure why this is, but it just seems to be a little bit janky. And I feel like it would really add to the premium feel of the game if that was, updating with a higher refresh rate. I've seen some comments of people saying the game looks rough. My opinion here, when I was playing it in person, I was like, this is okay. Like, if you look at the trees here, look at the grandstands, there is quite a bit of pop-in because of the graphical settings. You'll see some grandstands kind of start to populate as you approach them. Maybe we'll see it on the right-hand side here. But you can see this is, by the way, a race I was doing, inverted commas. It turns out it was just me on track because I just hit the let's go and race button. But I was really getting into the sim at this point. I was really getting into the rotation and trying to manipulate the car. The other thing on the HUD is I think it's way too busy on the right-hand side. If you think about it, what they've done is they've combined the rev bar and the shift light, which are both combined, and all of the TCS and the gears and speed, but they've combined that with the delta, with the current lap and last lap, and then you also have the tyres. It's too messy for me. Like, this is actually way messier than even iRacing. It's not as kind of nice to look at as ACC or AC Evo, so I would like a rethink there. I'd like at least being able to detach the shift lights and the rev bar. Obviously, in the view I'm in now, the shift lights and the gears are just irrelevant because they're much bigger for me in the Porsche in real life. And I think I've sat in this Porsche in real life, which is kind of crazy. I'll try and find some B-roll of that for future videos. Make sure to subscribe, by the way, if you want to help me out. I'm a new dad as well. This is my first video recording on the microphone as a new dad, which is very exciting. Is it going to give me a different perspective? I don't know. I think I'm still going to send it as hard as I've been sending it. The tyres as well. Now let's get out of the HUD. Let's look at the tyres generally. I feel like if the sim is going to be so tyre dependent, I feel like there has to be more communication from your engineer. So I don't know if there's a subtitle setting, but I'd love when my tyres start to overheat, my engineer starts telling me, hey, you're overheating your right front. I don't want to have to look down at these tyre diagrams. Also, if you imagine what a real Porsche Cup driver is going to be doing, they're going to be looking at this dash here, which is going to be obscured quite a bit by the wheel, by the way. And they're going to see the tyre pressures, but they're not going to see these lovely graphics and colours and things like that. So I would love an engineer to help me out. Like, see here, I've overheated the tyres, which is a common theme of me driving the sim at the Sim Racing Expo. And this is going to be interesting. Now, one of the things I don't think they should fix is I don't think they should make this inverted commas easier because it's so tyre dependent. I feel like they should keep the tyre dependency because from my experience of racing real life cars, driving high-end cars on tracks, tyres are important. And, you know, there is going to be, for example, if I was doing a 5-lap daily race here in Gran Turismo, Daily Race B, just imagine this. Daily Race B, the tyres are essentially static, the fuel is static, it's a static race. It would be a lot more dynamism in a 5-lap race if I know that for the first 3.5 laps I've really looked after my tyres, they're really in the window, and then I might be a second and a half behind or 2 seconds behind the car in front, but because they've been ragging their tyres in the last lap, I'm going to go for that really satisfying overtake, and it might make it more realistic rather than Gran Turismo. When I do Daily Race B here in Gran Turismo Top Split, we're running nose to tail like in a couple of seconds. Like, it's essentially kind of an arcade game in the style of it's just like there's no margin. Whereas in real world racing it doesn't really work like that, especially in GTs. You have big gaps, driver swaps come in, there's massive differences between the drivers, and I'd love Project Motor Racing to kind of reflect that. So I hope they can assist with the tyres in terms of you know, the engineer give me feedback, but I don't want them to make it any easier. Now, the next improvement I'd love them to make is also kind of to do with the handling, but again, I'm not asking them to change the handling, the challenging handling, the handling where the front can feel, in my experience, quite disconnected from the rear. What I would actually like is, again, for the engineer in the game, so when you leave the pits, the engineer talks to you, is to give you some feedback on the car. Now, this is kind of reverse to how it would work in real life. In real life, you would give feedback to the engineer. But I would like to have some dialogue with the engineer on how the car's handling, and therefore I can go into the setup and change things. There have been games in the past that have done this quite well. I seem to remember even some of the MotoGP games. You would come into the pits and experiment stuff and go out, and there were some exciting mini games about it. But here, I think it's going to be a frustrating experience, on console especially, if you're driving around and you don't really understand why the car's not handling as you would expect, and you don't really know where to go in the settings. Now, something like Gran Turismo is not a problem because you can drive all the cars pretty much stock. And if you want to be esports level, that's when you get into all of the setup wizardry, and I've done loads of videos about all the glitches and hacks you can do to make the cars faster, but that's kind of like an icing on the cake. Here, I think the fundamental accessibility of the handling model is going to be made more challenging if you don't understand what to do in the setup to actually get to that first level of, okay, the car feels okay, now I can push a little bit and experiment. So here, I don't really know what to do with this car, but I'd probably experiment by adjusting some camber and things like that with the tyres to kind of like keep the tyres in a better window, try to get more lateral grip when I'm turning into corners. You'll see here, if we brake down the gears. And by the way, you get this similar tyre noise a lot of the time as well, which it doesn't give me that distinction to really understand what the tyres are doing. But yeah, what should I be doing at this point? My tyres are 98 degrees, 100 degrees now on the rears. I'm probably going to light up here and heat them up even more. I don't really know what I should be doing. Have I cooked it too much in my earlier spin? Should we expect Project Motor Racing to make this more forgiving, so the tyres should go back into a window sooner? I mean, that's pretty fundamental to the physics, but you can see now I'm not a terrible driver. Like I said, I've driven many top split daily races here in Gran Turismo with the best drivers in the world at this circuit, and it's very, very, very different for me in Project Motor Racing. Now, I really hope they would make available another build to me. I have asked for it and said, by the way, just to be clear, I'm not asking to be paid or anything. I'm just saying, if you've got another build, I'd be happy to revisit my thoughts on the handling. But until then, my thoughts on the handling are what I've driven in my hands here, and it's a struggle. So again, I like the challenge. My improvement will be getting more feedback from the engineer. Now, just want to touch on one thing here as I've been doing this video. It seems to me like there's some kind of interpolation running, some DLSS or something like frame generation, AMD one, FSR, whatever it is. And I don't really know how that works for driving games in terms of the handling model. Project Motor Racing have talked about something like 720 Hz feedback. But if you're running up, frame generation, does that mean that the sim is inherently running at a lower frame rate and therefore it's going to be slightly less responsive? And the GPU is essentially guessing or interpolating frames in between. I'm not sure. But if you have a look at the fencing often, and if you have a look at the numbers on the lap time, it does look a little bit to me like there might be some interpolation going on. And I wonder if that again could be something that's affecting the handling potentially. But I'd encourage you to make your own minds up. Again, all credit to Project Motor Racing for just, at the Sim Racing Expo making this build available to me, not giving me a whole marketing spiel and telling me this is how the game is meant to handle and whatnot. They just said, here's your rig, go at it. And I've been very honest and transparent in return. I don't know the arrangements that other people on or entities on YouTube might have, but I give them credit for that. The reality is that this is good. I'm excited for this game because it's a challenge. I'm like, okay, this is going to be something I've got to get my teeth stuck into. But that is not going to be for everyone, and it's certainly not going to be for everyone on console. So I can't quite reconcile those two things. I wanted to show you at the end the sort of like replay graphics, which seem to be not fantastic. I'm not sure what's going on with the LODs. For me, it was a much better experience in actually the in the cockpit view. We'll have to see also whether this kind of garage area in the career mode, whether that looks like, whether you get kind of like posters showing your victories and things. Like, there's so much potential for this game, and I think I really stand by what I said in my videos. Other videos as well you might have seen on the channel, like the sim racing tours, etc. Where I said I just don't really know what people are going to find with Project Motor Racing when it comes out. They could really love it or they could really hate it. There's a really big possibility here of a wide spectrum. So let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you hopefully with an updated Project Motor Racing video soon.